This generation is more liberal, more democratic, much younger than... I can't remember it, Russell Brown. I had it in my mind just before we went to air and then suddenly gone blank.
Oh, where's my thing, bro?
Oh, it's not here at the moment. Yeah. Morning, Russell. We're at publicaddress.net.
Good morning. Yet another morning where we wake up and see what weird news awaits us from the News of the World phone hacking scandal.
Absolutely. Things have really moved on from when we talked last week. Overnight, Murdoch has appeared before a bunch of politicians and he got a pie in the face.
Indeed, yes. Which is sort of funny, but also, I think, really unhelpful.
Yeah.
It makes him a sympathetic figure, which I'm not sure he deserves that. And it certainly makes Wendy Murdoch look pretty good. Have you seen it?
She gave the guy a big slap.
Yeah, she has to leap over someone else to slap the so-called comedian who did it.
She's obviously much younger, right?
Yeah, way younger.
Yeah.
And that's another one of the weird dynamics in the Murdoch family, because the children from the first marriage, Anna Murdoch, do not like Wendy. And any children via Wendy have to, that's non-voting stock, and there's this very dynastic thing about it, which I think is starting to become a problem for the company as well.
Yeah.
I thought one of the really interesting things this week was a Bloomberg story that pointed out that News Corporation is actually trading on the stock market for about half the value that the companies it owns would fetch on their own.
Oh.
There's a major discount because Murdoch is running it, because he's seen as not necessarily serving the interests of shareholders very well.
Yeah.
So that it's always long seemed completely out of the question that News Corporation could be run by anyone else, but I think if you were a shareholder, you'd be thinking, hang on, this company could be worth twice as much if this 83-year-old man wasn't running it. And he did, from what I've seen of the Commons Committee overnight, he did really look like an 83-year-old man. But he didn't. Yeah, he just kept claiming not to know.
Well, but regardless of him there or not, the scandal still would have happened, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And I actually have done an interview for this week's Media 7 with a guy called Bruce Guthrie, who fell out with the Murdochs in Australia. He was one of their newspaper editors. And he pointed out when I first talked to him last year that this company does not do process well, and it's going to come back and bite them on the bum. And basically, I think he was dead right, and we're seeing that now. They didn't handle any of this well at the time. They thought they could make it go away, and they couldn't. Yeah.
There is criticism that he wasn't grilled enough by the politicians.
Yeah. It's sort of, without having seen all of it, it's hard to know. But yeah, when someone is just claiming not to know anything, it actually gets quite difficult to find out what they know if they're insisting that they know nothing.
Now, I haven't seen any further developments on this particular side of the story, where the head of the Met Police, he stood down, but then in his resignation letter, he seemed to be targeting the Prime Minister.
He did, yeah, I did see that bit. That was he was like the warm-up act for the whole thing, just before midnight our time. And he insisted, no, nothing of the kind. But I wasn't particularly convinced by that. I don't know about you, because he almost then went on to reiterate it. He said, well, I wouldn't want to put, wouldn't want to compromise the Prime Minister by telling him that Andy Coulson was under investigation. And he kept making the point that when he had overseen the hiring of this guy Neil Wallace, another News of the World person, there was no suspicion at all that he'd been involved in the phone hacking, unlike Andy Coulson when David Cameron hired him.
Yeah.
So I was unconvinced by Paul Stevenson's insistence that he meant nothing by it. But yeah, I wonder how many more days it can roll on with just popping up something crazy every day. The police of course, the other thing that happened yesterday was Sean Hoare, who I suspect has been a key source in this for Nick Davis at The Guardian.
Yeah.
He's the former News of the World entertainment reporter, and whistleblower turns up dead. And I mean, people are having all sorts of fun coming up with conspiracy theories about this.
It's odd timing.
It is odd timing. On the other hand, he was turning yellow with liver disease, and people like that do tend to die sometimes. Yeah. The police are still struggling to issue a coherent statement on it, I must say, from looking at The Guardian briefly this morning. So, who knows?
Okay, well, meanwhile, back here in New Zealand, intrigue with the headline this morning on Stuff, SIS on trail of suspected Israeli spies.
Yes, and people are expressing a degree of outrage about this already. I suspect there's something to this story because people were outraged. Some people were outraged in 2004 over the Mossad story then, and it turns out that they did actually, forge New Zealand passports. So,
and the latest also on the Herald this morning, the Prime Minister refuses to answer most questions about it, and he says it's not in the national interest.
Yeah, exactly. I hadn't seen that, but no, it's interesting though how the editor of the Southland Times gets it. He obviously knew someone and got a tip. I don't think this was a briefing from on high, although he may have been able to get some good information subsequently. But yeah, as young Israeli backpackers backpackers from anywhere, don't generally carry 5 passports.
No.
And I can't imagine that if a New Zealand backpacker was killed somewhere else, our head of civil defence would fly to that country.
Or get a call from the Prime Minister 4 times in one day.
Yeah, exactly. I suspect they were oversensitive about they were sensitive about it because there was something going on. I can't make head or tail of this malware in the police computer thing, though. It's sort of a shame, perhaps, that the story wasn't written by someone with a better technical grasp.
Yeah.
Because that part of it's gibberish, and who knows.
So there's obviously some threads here, right? And now it needs a really good investigative journalist to start pulling at them.
Yeah.
But what newsroom in New Zealand at the moment, with all the fluff that they put on their front pages, all the crap that we worry about on a day-to-day basis, what newsroom is going to invest in a journalist to put some time into this?
Yeah, well, maybe Fairfax will put Phil Kitchen on it. Because it does seem worth finding out, and I know there are going to be some people, including friends of mine, who are outraged that the story was even written this morning, but it seems to me that there's something here, and it's probably worth investigating. But yeah, to give Fairfax their due, they do keep Phil Kitchen in work, and he delivers genuine investigative stories for them, but there's not much else. I actually heard from Phil yesterday. He was just expressing his admiration for Nick Davis at The Guardian, who, of course, broke the phone hacking story. So, I think he sees that as a genuine work of investigative journalism. And it is interesting that I have to say, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks has spent 2 years dismissing and talking down the phone hacking story.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened is we've been shown actually what real journalism, investigative journalism is.
Yeah.
Because Nick Davis got knocked back time after time. The Press Complaints Commission over there suggested that he apologised to News Corporation, which he didn't do, and he just kept following that story and chipping away, found sources, and now it's the end of an era type story. So.
Crikey, who knows what will happen in the next week?
Indeed, yes.
We will certainly digest it at the same time next week. Thanks very much, Russell.
Righto.
Cheers. Publicaddress.net, also the Media 7 show on TVNZ.